you a self-storage owner or operator looking for service providers to help at your facility? Well, the Storage Business Owners Alliance, also known as the SBOA, has you covered. The SBOA is a premier online hub for connecting self-storage owners and operators to industry-leading products and service providers. We provide one-stop shopping for your business with exclusive offers to save time and money. At the SBOA, we believe by coming together, we help owners and operators grow revenue, gain purchasing power, reduce expenses, improve efficiencies, and increase profitability. We also offer many resources such as our conferences and self-storage unlock webinars to help self-storage owners and operators gain the knowledge needed to become more competitive in the industry. To become an SBOA member or to find out more information, please visit www.thesboa.com today. We can't wait for you to join the Alliance.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. Welcome to another Self-Storage Unlocked episode. Today, we are going to be talking all about how to create policy and procedure manuals specifically related to operations and a little bit of HR for your self-storage facilities and locations. My name is Jessica Johnson. I'm the Vice President of the SBOA. We love putting on this free education for the industry because we want to help owners and operators grow and become more operationally efficient. We have a rock star panel lined up for you guys today. I'm so excited for this one. So want to go over a few quick housekeeping items before we get started. That comment and chat area is your friend. Please ask our speakers that are here with us today live questions. If you have them as we go through the information, we'll do our best to answer those questions. Anything we can unfortunately not get to live, we will send you an email afterwards with the responses because we only have an hour of time together, but we're going to try to run through this as quick as we possibly can, but get you some information. And we are going to ask some poll questions throughout. And if you could drop your answers for the poll questions in that comment and chat area as well, that would be great. So I want to get us started because, like I said, we've got a rock star panel I'm super excited about today. So I'm going to bring up my first guest so he can give you an intro of who he is and what he does. I have Curtis Burns with me from Absolute Storage Management. Hey, Curtis.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing good, ready to talk about some SOPs and how we look at it with Absolute Storage Management and just different ways you can look at it in the industry where it's you can use it across different portfolios.
Yeah. So Curtis, tell me a little bit about you, how long you've been in the industry and how long you've been with Absolute and what Absolute does.
Oh, I have been in the industry going on 12 years in July, and those 12 years has been with Absolute Storage Management. We are a third-party management firm where we basically, you purchase the facility and you hand the keys. It's a one-stop shop, and we manage your facility from the day-to-day operations, the accounting, the hiring and training of your team members, and just everything under the sun when it comes to the facility management for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'll bring you back up in just a minute.
All right.
I'm going to show you guys a quick video from Absolute before we get to our next speaker.
Absolute Storage Management is your REIT alternative for flexible and tailored self-storage management. We provide self-storage owners with professional management and consulting services through communication, dedication, teamwork, leadership, integrity, and excellence. ASM manages properties in 16 states and is actively looking to establish management presence in 5 more. Currently, we have regional offices in Atlanta, Chicago, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee. Absolute Storage Management has been a top 3 privately owned management operator since Inside Storage began tracking in 2016. ASM's portfolio is large enough to achieve significant economies of scale, yet nimble enough to keep your property top priority with quick responses and customized operations. The services we offer include professional property management, profit maximization, management reporting, vendors and maintenance, human resources, accounting and audit controls, and marketing. Our marketing services include online marketing, branding, and local marketing. Check out our current property websites using your desktop, tablet, or mobile device. Absolute Storage Management has AMO accreditation, awarded by the Institute of Real Estate Management. This accreditation is given to 500 firms in the U.S. and Canada who demonstrate the highest standards of professionalism, financial performance, and ethics. Partnering with an AMO firm will deliver maximum results because AMO firms offer vast experience, insight on local markets, financial responsibility, outstanding leadership, commitment to reaching your goals, and integrity and ethics. Are you working with an SBA loan? ASM has worked with multiple owners using SBA financing. If you feel that you're ready to join our team, please visit our website to learn more. Then send us an email or give us a call. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
All right, awesome. If anyone wants to get in touch with ASM, Curtis is your guy to go to after today's broadcast. So my next guest, I have Dave Cooper with Storage King USA. Hey, Dave.
Hey, good morning, Jess. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to sharing some great conversation this morning on SOP. I'm Dave Cooper. I'm a Director of Operations with Storage King USA. Been in the industry a little over 32 years. We operate owned or managed locations over 16 states, and we're headquartered out of Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah, I was joking with your team recently, and I was calling you guys 1 a week, then it moved to 2 a week. You guys are just gobbling up the market. Every time I looked on LinkedIn, you guys had a new property you were introducing. So congratulations to you and your team and the growth. And thanks for being with us today, Dave.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it, Jess.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And next up, I have Matt Van Horn from Black Swan Self-Storage Advisors. Did I say all that right? That's a mouthful.
Got it right. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning, Matt. Matt, give us a rundown of who you are and how long you've been around.
Sure. This is my 23rd year in the self-storage industry. Actually, I kind of grew up in it. My mentor was a former VP of Ops for Extra Space, started a management company. I was in college at the time, took it because at the time there was an apartment available. That was great for college. I was, sharing an apartment with 4 other people, got into the storage industry. A year later, I was a DM. So I've been in ops for 23 years and, really understand the importance of having these SOPs and operation manuals and everything else on your site. So looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt, for being here. And I echo your sentiment. Super critical to have this stuff in place. All right. Next up, I have Miss Melissa Huff, the only lady other than me on the panel today. Hey, Melissa.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Give us the rundown of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm the VP of Operations for Affordable Storage Guys. We've got 30 properties as of today in Tennessee and Kentucky and even in Florida now. So super excited about that. Continuing to add on. It feels like weekly, but it's a monthly thing at this point. But no, been in the industry for 16 years. I'd like to say I grew up in it. That makes me sound a little bit younger, but that's not exactly true. So but no, super excited to be here. Of course, my focus is operations. So this is policy and procedures is definitely near and dear to my heart, something we swim in every day. So yeah, I'm excited about this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. And just for anyone out there that doesn't know, Melissa's also part of another really cool podcast out there called Gab Focus that they do with the Storage Pug crew. Get on Storage Pug or get on Gab Focus to learn more about that. And Melissa, I'll let you go over that later today so people know where they can go to tune into those, because you guys put on some really good educational podcast on that one as well. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to play a quick video from you guys, and then we're going to introduce our last speaker, and we're going to get this thing started. You can tell I'm a marketing person. I just get tickled over beautifully put together video advertisements. I love that one. So final guest I'm going to bring up, I have Tron. And Tron, I'm going to butcher your last name, but I'm going to try. Jordheim?
You did not butcher it. Good for you.
Tron, give us the rundown of how long you've been around and what you do for self-storage.
Well, I'm fairly new at this. I've only been doing it 22 years, but I'm starting to figure some of it out. These days, mostly I work as a consultant for people on operations, marketing, site selection, and I host the amazing Self-Storage Hawaii Unconference in October on the Big Island. So if anybody wants to go to a fantastic week of self-storage and enjoyment, that's the spot. I've done all kinds of things in the industry, working for super large players and medium players, and have done consulting gigs and speaking gigs in 6 different nations and done all kinds of fun stuff. But really the key is getting your operations straight. And to do that, you need some good manuals and policies and procedures. So this is great to be able to share this with everyone. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here, Tron, and everyone else on the panel. One final video clip, and then we're going to dig into the nitty-gritty of this. Awesome. I didn't expect to be back. And here I am. So I'm going to bring everybody back up. Again, this is a rock star panel. I'm super excited. So, all right, y'all, you ready? Let's get into these questions. And audience, if you have live questions, please ask those. We are monitoring the chat. And if you have to jump off early or you missed something, the video replay of today's event will be live on our YouTube channel. So, all right, I'm going to pick Curtis, since he's to the right of me on screen, to give this first question to. So Curtis, it's Monday morning. I woke up. I'm getting to my facility. I'm the property manager. What's this look like for me? What are the first steps I need to do to get my week kicked off? Do I walk the property? Do I go right into the office? What do I do?
Yeah, well, it depends. Some managers will get their own flow of things, but I definitely suggest printing your morning reports, make sure that you got your AR list ready, your available units, and some failed autopays ready so you can connect with those tenants as soon as possible. And also, if you get someone in on your heels, you'll have your available units list ready. I also suggest doing a walk around. We do walk arounds daily, but I do suggest doing detailed walk arounds at least twice a week. And the detailed walk around shouldn't just be limited to checking the locks. Check for security fencing. If anyone has breached a fence, check for out lights, check for camera damage, check for any kind of property damage. But just really do a detailed walk. And while you're out there, make sure you're checking your curb appeal. That's part of it as well. Make sure that you get the property back presentable before your clients start coming on site, and for sure your potential clients. Curb appeal is a big thing. It can be a turnoff if they pull up and you got trash or mattresses. Those are the things that people will leave out. They'll leave a mattress the day right before it rains, and they got to figure out what you're going to do with that mattress. But for sure, getting the detailed walk around done, and then getting back in the office and checking those checking emails, missed phone calls, and just following up. The biggest thing that you can do to succeed in the storage industry, and for sure at the property, is to follow up. The faster you follow up, the higher your customer retention and satisfaction is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's Alana Ross for storageauctions.com. And I joke around. She always, when she's going to visit a new property, she checks their Google photos and has not gone to some properties because of the good photos that have been on Google. So make sure your Google business profile has really good photos of your facility. And if it needs some cleaning up, get it cleaned up. Anybody else have anything they want to add to what Curtis said? Everybody good? He hit it?
Pretty much the same thing. I often encourage my employees to actually just do an initial drive-through of the property before they walk into the office, because it could be a couple of hours before your day, especially on a Monday morning, if it's the first of the month. It could be a couple of hours before you manage to actually get out on site to do a walkthrough. But if you've done at least a preliminary drive-through, you can catch some of the big, stupid things you have to address later in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So is this something that you encourage people to do daily? Does it look different from like a weekly or monthly or quarterly perspective?
Yeah, we for sure encourage daily, but for sure the detail needs to happen at least twice a weekend. Melissa, that was part. I said you'll get into your own flow of things. That's what I would do when I was a property manager. I would drive through the property and get my eyes on everything.
Yeah.
And do that walk around.
I want to know if someone hit the building, or if there's a mattress blocking the driveway, or something stupid like that before I get tied to my desk for a couple of hours. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right. So we talked about opening. Matt, I'm going to drive this one over to you. What's closing look like? Any different? Obviously, There's going to be different tasks.
Sure. It's actually very similar, but just getting ready for the end of the day. Again, printing your reports, making sure your deposits are done or set up for however you're going to do that, doing an extra walkthrough on the property, make sure everything's good, security check, cleaning the office, cleaning the bathroom, make sure everything's stocked. I mean, really just getting ready for the next day. So when the person who walks in after you comes in, you're only focused on just your morning tasks and not all of these backup things. It's just easier to get it done at the end of the day when things start to slow down.
Yeah, for sure. And I see some comments in the chat, and I bring those comments on, bring those questions on. I love that. Someone said they actually got like an opening and closing checklist template from their state SSA. So again, the importance of being a member of at least your state level SSA is critical. If you want to level up and become a member of the national SSA, even better. But we highly encourage, I think everyone can share in that sentiment, right? Everyone raise your hand if they should join their state level SSA.
Those hands.
Dave and Matt, where are your hands?
I'm there.
Get those hands up. Listen, it's a few $100 investment, if that, annually. Obviously, if you have multi-properties, it can get up there in price, but it's well worth the investment. And we'll go over why that is in a little bit. And somebody mentioned, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, they're looking specifically for safety procedures manuals, and we can get into that in a little bit. Dave, I'm going to come to you next. There's a lot of software in the industry, right? For property management software, and they're all great. I don't know. It's so hard to figure out which one's right for you because there are so many, and I think they all have good qualities. But let's talk about some of the software stuff that they should be doing, the reporting that they should be looking at in the software, and what they should be reviewing.
So, on a daily basis, our team members, we have the software that we use has the ability to preset a list of reports that we want to have printed on a daily basis. And when they come in each day, they run their opening day. We're reconciling the previous day's bank deposit. We're counting the cash drawer. So we're looking at the bank deposit report. We're pulling up a fresh vacant spaces list every day. And we try to do that before we go out to do our security lot check in the morning, just to make sure that everything jives. If you run across a vacant unit out there, there's no lock on the door and it's not on your vacant unit list, it's probably someone who either just rented or just moved out. We write that down while we're out there. So clearly the vacant spaces list is an important one to have. the overlock report, which units need to be overlocked that day. You know, we run it on an anniversary basis, so we have overlocking and overlock removals happening pretty much every day of the month. So those are big reports that we print on a daily basis. Or again, your vacant spaces, your walk around, your daily deposit. Those are key reports that you need every day.
Yeah, for sure. I want to, Amy's saying here, did you suggest asking my state SSA for an opening closing checklist? Yes, I did. And you can get in touch with them. I would venture to say most of them have it. If they don't, get in touch with us. We can get you in the direction of somebody that's got something that you could use for a template. And then Julie is asking, and Tron, I'm going to ask you this one from Julie. If someone had to walk in right now and they're taking over on a site, what are the most important things that they need to know?
So you're taking over a site today. It's your new site. It's day one. What do you need to know? Well, you need to know who's in every unit for sure. So if you haven't already gone through all the leases to make sure you know who's associated with every door, and if you have vacant units, they're empty, you got to get that started right away. So you've got to know who's where, and then you have to update whatever your maintenance schedule is going to be. So you should have already, by the time you put the keys in the door, have a clear list of all the maintenance items, all the things that are high priority or low cost, and figure out how you're going to get those done right away. And then, of course, if you're taking over, you've got a whole software switch you probably have to do. And that's going to take a better part of your maybe first several weeks or even first couple months, depending on what sort of a mess you've walked into, to make sure that your software has been properly installed and you've got everybody where they need to be. So I'd say those are the main things to get figured out right away.
Yeah. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, those are the same things I would say, but I do know we've sometime walked into a property where they didn't have technology. Some still they're using Excel, or the information is only as good as the person putting it in, honestly. So the biggest thing that I always suggest is making sure that you get a rent roll, your auto pay customers, and your insurance customers that's on insurance. And you can build that out through your software if you're going to get a software provider or a POS, which I do suggest you getting. There are a lot of great ones out there. And even with choosing your software, it depends on how you're trying to integrate and what softwares or gate systems you're trying to use. But the rent roll, your auto pay list, and your tenants with active insurance policies.
Awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Melissa, this one's for you. Does someone want to add?
This was Dave. I was just going to say, leading up to that point where you're walking onto the property the first time, I think it would be incredibly beneficial to have a pre-acquisition checklist, if you will, and have all these steps in place and already in order before you actually assume control of the asset on acquisition day.
Yeah, day one should not be a stressful day. Day one should be a relaxing day. If your hair's on fire day one, you've spent 120 days doing everything wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that.
Customer service should be able to be the priority on day one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that as well. And I love Sue Haviland, who's also out there in operations in the industry. She made a really good comment. Make sure when you buy basic templates, you spend some time customizing to your own business in case additional things need to be added or changed. Keep this manual separate from your employee handbook. I would agree with that sentiment there. Melissa, this one's for you. All right, we used to have paper leases, and we still do in some scenarios, and we'd have boxes of paper leases, and gosh, what a process that is, right? But now we're moving over to the e-leasing in most scenarios. But talk to me through the importance of having a lease, an updated lease, having an attorney look at your lease. I see a lot of people on Facebook asking for copies of lease, and somebody from California gives someone in Tennessee a copy of their lease. And
this is another plug for the state associations. Please contact your state association and get the lease that you're supposed to use. I feel like joining the association should be a prerequisite to purchasing a property so that you know you're off on the right foot. But Yeah, there's leases definitely. The process has changed. I know when I started in the industry, we had the triplicate copy, the carbon copy leases. So yeah, it kind of dates me a little bit. But now I think that we've started to move to the online process. The biggest thing is making sure your management team is actually going out and testing the process themselves online. What is the customer's experience when they are actually going through the lease process remotely? And your manager needs to be aware of what that looks like and needs to understand step by step how they can walk the customer through that if they need to. So I think that's part of our training process. That's part of our procedures manual is making sure that you're aware of those things. And then, are you printing copies of the lease, put it in a paper file, or are you keeping everything digitally? We try to make sure all of our properties are run the same way so that if someone does go into a different office, they know the same procedure for taking care of a lease and what they're supposed to do with the paperwork and things like that. So I think testing and retesting and making sure that you're familiar with the processes each step along the way are huge points to this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Anyone want to add?
Yeah, Melissa makes a great point. You should be running your property so anybody from any property can step onto any other property and pick up the checklist and go, oh, I know exactly where I am and what I need to do next, and everything works.
Yeah,
exactly.
Matt, tell me the comment you made during our planning call yesterday of people just, there's no processes and like the tribal knowledge and how that can be really problematic in the future of the business.
Well, yeah, and it's exactly what Tron just said in terms of what we call systematic management. There should be systems that run your properties and the people fit within those systems. It's not the other way around. If, it's just like when we joke around in marketing, we talk about reputation management. Just because you're not on Google or Facebook doesn't mean someone's not out there talking about it. And just because you don't have a policy and procedures manual or operations manual doesn't mean you don't have one. Someone's doing something, you just don't know what it is. And that's a bigger problem. So, in terms of the tribal knowledge, where historically as independent operators, you would go into a property and there was a manager, and that manager was the de facto kind of accountant, DM, manager, marketing person. They kind of did everything on their own. And then you had the owner that kind of knew what was going on. Maybe had never been in the software, doesn't exactly know how the procedures are. And then you have one person responsible for everything. This person's the trainer. And then again, you get into that game of like telephone when you were younger. It's one of the things about the policy and procedures manual is you cannot have accountability without, responsibility. So if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, or you claim you don't know, then you run into a problem where if something goes wrong, it gets difficult to hold people accountable for it. So you really want everybody on the same page. It's like I should be able to walk into property A, B, C, or D, and other than maybe, it being in the north where it snows, in Florida it doesn't here, most every other procedure should be exactly the same, so I can move people in and out on the system, not just based on the person.
Well, you bring up a good point too, even like regionally based, right? You're going to have some different procedures. Like Florida, we don't have snow removal procedures because I don't know the last time it snowed in the state of Florida. So, right. I mean, you also have to take some of that type of things into accountability or into mind when you're developing one of these, right?
Sure. Right. So you have some site specific things. You have a tab that's site specific, right? Here's how we handle this site because it has these 3 or 4 things that none of the other sites have. So
yeah,
then it's all doable.
Yeah. So now that we're talking about this, Taylor brings up a good question. So she's asking, what tools can help with the layout of an SOP, table of contents, and more? Anyone want to touch on that one? Don't all jump at once.
Well,
I'll pick on someone.
Sure. You need to have a good table of contents, and you can certainly buy operations manuals. There's several companies and consultants that put out versions that are quite good as starting points. So you can get one as a starting point and then fill it out basically. And in the beginning, you're going to want to carry that around with you and make notes with everything you do all day long, and then get that cleaned up. But yes, you need a table of contents. So if you're at the store and a situation comes up, you go to the one that says upset customers, or the one that says gate doesn't work, or whatever it is, and there's your checklist of how to handle it.
So we're moving away from paper copies because I got tired of having to update it and realized that with multiple stores, some people had printed off their updated ones and some hadn't, and no one seemed to have the most current copy of anything. So we went online and we use Google platform for our business. And so we did a Google website. Our employee help desk is what we've called it, which is fantastic because it's got the greatest search function ever. And you can put upset customer in there and procedures about that will just pop up, everything that's related to it. So it makes it a whole lot simpler to just drill down into specifics on certain locations, and it's easy to find things. So,
and Melissa, your audio on my end, sorry, cut out when you said you're using Google what? I'm sorry.
We're using the Google platform for all of
Google,
our, yeah. So
living, breathing document.
Oh, it's so easy that way.
Yep.
It is.
We just updated ours like that as well, Melissa, because we're going to these properties and we call them purple binders. It's purple binders like your Bible for the property. You can walk in and operate, but what we would find is the white out and then this password is expired or it was changed. So we've turned it into a live document through SharePoint, and we keep it as a link on our web browser so anyone can have access to. And we also have it tracked back to our Salesforce apps so where the regional managers and everyone can have access to it. And the paperless has been, we've been changing a lot of stuff to paperless, but having that purple binder for sure helps anyone to walk in and operate a facility, and also has those facility courts in there as well.
Yeah, awesome. Dave, I'll shoot this one over to you. And this is kind of like going in line with this too. So like you got a template, you customized it, you got your core systems down, but like everything in life, there's evolution, right? So how often should I be changing this bad boy?
You know, I firmly believe the operations manual is really a living document, right? It's as often as needed. Whenever you have a change to a policy or procedure, you need to update your SOP for it. We're actually in the process of trying to convert our ops manual to an electronic version for many reasons, as already been discussed here. Having a table of contents that not only serves as a descriptor of where to find the data, but they're all URLs that will take you directly to it, or having that search function where you could type in upset customer and get everything related to it. That's key. And I have to imagine updating your SOP on an electronic version is clearly going to be a much more simplified than it would be on a paper version. Other benefits to it, I think, would be you could control the ability to print it. I heard somebody say that they print the ops manual and then they realize it's not necessarily up to date. And I think that prevents people from having outdated material, but it also prevents people from downloading proprietary material and taking it with them if they're going to leave the company and go somewhere else. We're trying to incorporate we're looking at an LMS right now that we're going to be using for our learning center, and we want to start disseminating our SOP updates through there. So this way, every employee gets an email saying, "Hey, there's a new SOP." They're required to read it, and then they're required to acknowledge that they read it. So that ensures that not just our property managers, but all the employees at all the facilities get the same directive or get the same information, and they're all acknowledging that they've received it. So that's a good check and balance that you can have in place to ensure that everybody's getting the actual updates in real time. So again, a short answer is as often as needed, Jessica. I think whenever you have an update, if it's an electronic version, I think it should be relatively easy to just make that update in real time.
Yeah, and I think that, piggybacking on that, Dave, what you'll also find is your staff people would be much more willing to share problems with you because they know it'll end up in a edit to an SOP. Because what you get is people find a problem and they don't tell anyone because they know it'll get forgotten. But if they know there's constant updating going on, they'll be quick to bring something to you, and then they'll feel good about having contributed to the whole process. So it really helps all the way around.
Absolutely, Tron. That's such an excellent point. I think you need to give your employees a mechanism to report things that they see, or just a sounding board, if you will, that they can go to and voice concerns or questions that they have about an SOP. That's how we all get better, right? I mean, nobody has all the answers.
I mean, it really should be written in the sense that, yes, you're going to train your employee, right? But let's say you get busy and you can hand this to them. It should be so systematic and step by step and nothing missed, where like if they could take it, read it, and execute it, right? I always love this training process, and I'll share it with you guys. And we did this when I was in food franchising. And for people out there that are looking for training ideas, we did a 3-step process. The trainer, let's say I'm the trainer, I do the function while I'm talking through the function. And then I give the person the manual and I have them do it while I'm like talking them through it. And then the third part is they do it and talk it back to me. So it's a 3-step. They listen and they watch me. Then they execute it while listening on what I'm saying to them, and then they listen and do it on their own. So 3 steps. It was always effective when I did it in food franchising. Haven't done it in storage, but I would imagine that it would probably transfer over pretty well. So
right, because people never really learn something better than when they're teaching it. So if you show it to someone and then have them teach it back to you or teach it back to another employee, it really sticks.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's got to be like a building thing too, right? Don't just hand it to them. Here you go do it. Like you got to go through the process of training them. Dave, Taylor's asking, what did you say you're using for employee signatures and acknowledgement?
So we're interviewing 2 different LMSs out there now that we're going to be using for our training and development, and we're going to incorporate our SOP updates into that. We haven't decided on one yet. We're getting close, so be happy to share once we do.
And if for people, they might not know that acronym, Dave, LMS is?
Just learning management systems that we have. Just a great tool, if you will, for putting out training programs and development.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about HR. I don't want to go down too far the HR rabbit hole because I'm not an HR professional, nor do I ever want to be one. I think they're a special breed of people. But Melissa, I'll do this one for you. We're not all HR specialists, generalists. In fact, probably the majority of us aren't or don't
want to be.
Listen, I'm a marketing and ops person. At HR and accounting side, I think they're weird, but we need them, right? They're a critical piece, and HR is going to be a critical piece, especially as Matt was saying. If they don't even know what the SOPs are and they haven't signed anything and they have no accountability, you have no repercussion when they're not doing what you want them to be doing because they have no idea. So let's just talk a little bit about employing a third-party resource, specifically like a professional employment organization, and how they could probably help in this category.
So for our employee handbook, and I think it was Sue Haviland that noted on here that should be a separate thing from your operations procedures, because I completely agree. We actually have that handled through our payroll company. So they're the ones that can distribute that to the employee and have the proof of signature that they received it and that sort of thing. As far as the procedures go, those are so drilled down and so facility specific that we handle that directly through the trainers. So I'm actually using the trainers to help constantly be in charge of updating our operations, because like you said, when you are teaching it, you know it better than anyone because you're having to constantly tell people how this procedure is being done. And so we are rolling that out in our weekly team meetings when we adjust procedures and policies for different things operationally. We come together in our team meetings and we share those Google Docs and updates at that point. So that's how we're distributing things. And it goes in, it's all housed in one place specifically on our employee website. So we're not really using a third party for that piece.
Okay. Anybody using a third party? I mean, we do over here at Storage Pros and at SBOA. And I can tell you, when we had our portfolio and as we were going into different states, there's different state labor laws, right? And these guys are experts. We could stay hands off. Anyone want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so depending on what you're doing, a payroll company will often have the resources you need, or you can use a full PEO to actually let the employees be their employees that work for you, and then they have everything in place and they have the HR liability. Also, many times in different states, your workers' comp carrier will provide you with a lot of the HR materials you need. But the first caution I would say is that everybody thinks that they can make some of their people 1099 contractors, and you have to be super careful with that. Because if you set up your 1099 people wrong, you're going to have a wage and hour dispute that's going to cost you buku dollars. And especially people running remote sites, they have their boots on the ground person that a lot of people like to call them, and they set them up as 1099s. That's treading on dangerous territory. So you have to be very careful how you do that. Chances are you may not get caught, but if you do, or if you have a dispute with your 1099 person, it's going to be difficult. And I can tell you from managing a lot of people many times in my career, a really good HR manual makes handling HR easy, because you say, oh, well, let's check the manual. And you open up the manual and say, oh, here's what we do. And it works great. You've got the manual in place. If you're just kind of making stuff up as you go, then you need the phone number of all the best self-storage lawyers, because you'll be talking to them a lot.
And I can speak from our own experience too. When we employed a PEO, what they would also do as well, when we had some of those like sticky situations with an employee and we didn't know if we had the right to terminate or not over the situation, like they would counsel with us. They'd get on the phone with us and have an hour consultation with us of like, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say. Like they would even sometimes sit on the phone with us when we had to bring like the employee in. So definitely well worth the fees you would pay. Same as if, you know, you don't want to self-manage your properties, get a third-party management group. We've got a bunch of them with us here today that are all good, reputable sources. Let them deal with it. Because guess what? When you self-manage and that gate goes down at midnight, guess who's going to fix the gate? You are. So if you don't want to deal with it, you can get Melissa and Dave and Curtis, their teams can go deal with it, right?
That's right.
I love this question, and Tron, you were starting to like broach the topic, and it's not like this new phenomenon in the industry, but I think people are more aware of it because it does help create better valuations quickly. It reduces labor costs and some other costs. There's a lot of remotely managed properties out there. Don't call them unmanned or unmanaged, because look, there's a person behind everything, right? There's a person behind Google. That didn't just pop up one day, you know? So there's humans behind this. But how would a policy and procedure manual for a remotely run facility with no employees, or maybe that boots on the ground employee that comes a couple times a week to check things, do you think it would look different than a traditional on-site manager?
Well, it does and it doesn't, because if you have a 1099 person checking on your property, then you have a contractor agreement with them that has certain milestones and standards that they have to meet in order to get paid. But the problem with that is if your milestones and standards are too specific, now you have control over that person and they're no longer a 1099 employee. So call a lawyer if you're looking to do 1099 people. Your expectations have to be met, but you have to be very careful that you have no control, no custody and control of that person. So that's the thing. But everything's got to get done. Somebody's got to handle the checklist.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody have anything like you think you would do differently in a remote managed situation versus obviously the on-site?
You know, Jessica, I think that really depends on how you plan on running the unmanned facility. If it's truly unmanned, how often are you going there, right? I mean, somebody needs to go do the overlocks, take them off, make sure there's no trash on the ground. Nobody's cut the fence. And if that's once a week or every day, I think that's really going to dictate the SOP that you're going to have at that location, right? Because you can't come in and check the locks every day if you're only going once a week. So we are just now, again, reaching into that sector with unmanned facilities. We have a few of them within our portfolio, and we manage them a little differently. So right down to the fundamentals. We're an anniversary company. However, our unmanned location, we go first of the month, and we do that because, well, we want to put all of our overlocks on one day and not every day, and it really cuts down on the amount of times that you go into the store. But at the end of the day, the end objectives don't change, right? We still want to make sure all the units are locked, the trash is picked up, everything's happening the way it should. Are you going to take cash and checks at an unmanned facility or at a remote managed facility, or are you going to be strictly credit card and ACA? So that's going to really drive some of the other things that you're going to need to do. Is there a cash and checks that you need to pick up and enter at the store? So again, it's all managing how you're going to operate that unmanned facility that's going to drive the variances in your SOP.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And really, at the end of the day, what's changing is not so much our business per se, it's the technology that allows us to run our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So the background things that we need to do, collect delinquencies, make door overlocks, do the security checks, clean the property up. These don't change. It's just that the technology has allowed us to manipulate things in a way that saves us money in a sense, but we still have to figure out new ways to get these things done.
100%.
Right. And one advantage you may have is if you have one small team that's actually the manager of many remote facilities, it can help you get your policies and procedures far tighter and far more consistent because you have fewer people handling more customers. So there are some advantages to doing it that way.
Yeah. So Dave, you said traditionally you guys are anniversary billing in a manned property, but first of month and unmanned. Can you explain to our audience the difference between first of month and anniversary? I mean, I know it's probably self-explanatory, but we've got some newbies out there and why you guys decided to go that way. And then I'm going to go round table and ask everyone's preference, anniversary or first of month, because this is a big topic in the industry.
That's such a loaded question and difficult to answer. Again, it's all on your goals and objectives. So anniversary means the day you rent is the day you're due every month. So if you rented today, the second of every month would be your anniversary date that your rent would be due. And obviously on first of the month, you'd be prorated to the first of the following month. And then your rent would just be due along with everyone else on the first of each month. Those are the main fundamental differences. And again, anniversary has worked great for us for a lot of reasons. One, it really spreads out the activity levels, if you will, at the stores, making them a little more predictable and allows you more flexibility with planning your staffing. So if you're really looking to sharpen your pencil and hone in on staffing, you get a little more of a smooth playing field, if you will. Then again, I mean, if you go first of the month, you need to bulk up on that last and first week of the month and maybe go on a lighter schedule for those middle 2 weeks of the month. So there's pros and cons to both, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Matt, what's your preference?
Honestly, I've run them both. And I think just like what Dave said, there's benefits to both. I mean, first of the month, I'm running in a couple stores, third party. I like it just for the fact that for me, it's easier comparison tracking, no matter what time of the, where I am in the month. But in terms of what Dave was saying with staffing, in terms of overlocks and things, anniversary date's much easier for that because you can spread that load across. And you're right, you don't have that massive, kind of build up in the first of the month and the last week of the month. But there's benefits to both. I like them both, honestly.
Yeah.
For different
Curtis,
reasons.
how about you?
Yeah, I like them both too. The majority of our property is property set is anniversary, but we do have some out there that's a first of the month property. But with that, it's okay because one of them specifically is ran with one team member, and it's fully no-key integrated, but it's more predictable. And plus that site is able to be ran remote, but it's predictable. So we're okay if she's out, but it just makes it a lot easier to run those first month properties when you're for sure limited to one person.
Yeah. Melissa, what's your preference?
Hands down, first of month.
Me too.
I like the consistency. We've got a lot of properties that are remotely managed. So it just it helps when you can just schedule all of your auctions, and because we like to schedule months in advance, and I always know what every single day of the month is going to hold for us. So
yeah. All right, rounding it out, Tron.
It would depend on the size of the property. If it's a small property that we're trying to not spend a lot of time on, I like first of the month. If it's a small property, if it's a large property and I have staff there, I want anniversary because then I can have predictable staffing and it works much better. So, but I suppose if I had to choose one, I'd pick anniversary. I just like having the month be the same every day.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, and I always like to bring this up to people because we get asked like these blanketed questions all the time, right? And I'm like, listen, this is situational depending on the market you're in, the size of your property. You know, I get asked marketing questions all the time. How do I market this? Well, I need some details before I can just give like this blanketed answer. And it's even that way in operations and some of the other functionality that would go on in the properties, right? It is, while there are cookie cutter things for the most part, there are always those situational property specific things like we were even talking about earlier. Let's see. I'm looking at these comments here. Okay,
Well,
they're just some comments. Everybody's saying first a month.
Yeah. One thing I'd say, Jess, is what's super important is the first thing as an owner, you have to decide how you want this to fit into your lifestyle. And that should be the answer to all of your it depends questions, right? If you've got a 20-store portfolio, that's different. You're running a big business. You've got other priorities. But if you have a couple stores or one store, you have to decide, how do you want this to fit into your life? And that's how everything else gets decided.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because you know, you have to, the bigger it gets, I mean, you should be running it like a business, even if it's one or two, right? Don't make that exception. Aunt Sally's late every month, I'm going to waive her late fee. No, you should be charging Aunt Sally the late fee. Like, I mean, because the exceptions then become the rule, right? And if you're making that rule for that one tenant, why aren't you making it for the other 50 tenants that you have, or however many tenants that you have? So I want to bring
what you just said. That's a good point. You know, that's a good point of what you said right there. And that should be in your option. You know, what can you do? What can you waive? How much? What's the limit in the software? All of these things. I mean, that's a perfect question. That's answered. That should be answered. That shouldn't be left up. Of course, there's sometimes where you might want to give people some leeway to do some things for people. But, you know, some of these things should be laid out exactly what they should be able to do and what they can do and when not to do things.
Right. And the leeway needs to be spelled out too. If you're cutting somebody a break for this reason or that reason, here's the 3 ways you can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when you're developing your procedures, you should also be thinking about future growth. If you have one property right now, but you're wanting to get to 4 or 5, are the procedures you're putting in place today growable to that? Because you don't want to have to change your procedures every single time you acquire a new property. Because who has time to do that? Right. So it already is a living document enough that we have to keep alive as we go anyway. But if you don't make it harder on yourself by having to change certain procedures every single time.
Yeah, that's a great point, Melissa. And sometimes some of the consulting clients I bring on are ones that have grown past their systems, where, you know, what worked last week doesn't work anymore because now they're bigger. Nothing works anymore.
Right.
So I'm gonna pose another. This wasn't on our outline, but I'm gonna throw a curveball to you because I always like asking this question to everybody that I talk to. I love properties that only allow Autopay, which means you got to have some type of ACH or credit card on file to do that, right? And then I talk to owners and they're like, oh, I don't want to pay credit card fees and ACH fees. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Because listen, if I know my people are on Autopay, you're going to have a few that maybe their credit card or debit card expired, right? You don't have to go chasing for money orders and cash and checks. However, I know you're limiting people that don't necessarily maybe have debit or credit cards. However, I don't know that I necessarily want that type of tenant in my properties. So there's some differences on this one. Anybody want to chime in on what their feeling is about that? Mine is Autopay, everyone, no exceptions. Period. The end. Check. I don't want your check. I don't want your cash. I don't want your money order. I want your credit card information.
You're making my heart pound with that. I do not like to limit the way payments can be paid because you're going to miss out on people. But I do know owners ask that. So I then ask them, what's your expectation? What are you trying to achieve here? And once they tell me what they're trying to achieve, then I let them know, okay, well, you may see a reduced clientele basis. So your property may grow slower. You'll get where you want, but it may grow slower. So you have to set the expectations. And sometimes I even make sure I tell them we need to consider where your property is. If you're in a, depending on the economic income of this specific property, this may not be the best way to go because, if the median income is $50,000, they don't have a lot of disposable income. They're not going to set this up on Autopay. So you have to look at where your property is and also what that owner is trying to achieve for that specific property. I don't like doing it, but I do have some ownership groups that they want all Autopay.
Yeah, I would agree with what Curtis is saying. I mean, we have our fair share of properties that are in high cash customer areas, and I think it would be a challenge for some of those facilities to convert to a auto pay only facility. I'm a huge fan of paying by credit card for everybody. Really not a big fan of auto pays. I like late fee collections, and I'm just not going to see that if everyone's on auto pay. Just saying.
Well,
That's
I
a good
think
point, too.
anything you decide has a cost and has a benefit and has a set of problems associated with it. And if there's a certain style you just really like, then you have to plan for that and understand that it's going to have some limitations as well. And I mean, I'd agree with, both Curtis and Dave and Jessica. It's great to have an auto pay only property because now you only have to hassle with your auto pays. But maybe that's not what you want, or maybe that's not going to make you the most money. I don't know. You have to weigh all these things out.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah,
end of
so
the day,
another
I think,
situation.
oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I think
No,
at
go
the
ahead.
end of the day, all the owners I work with are going to take the payment however it comes in and be thankful that they got the payment. But we're going to make it really easy to do the method that we want to collect, which is online or auto pay.
Yeah.
If it's cash or money order or check, you're going to have to jump through the hoops that we have laid out. And if that's a remote location, that could mean that if you don't have it in the box by a certain time on a certain day, you're going to get a late fee. And you're just going to have to work by our rules on that. So, but I'm going to make it really easy to do the online options and, click this link in your text to make your payment and things like that. So,
Right.
And
And
I mean, I've seen it trending
ahead,
that
sorry.
Sorry, Tron. I mean, I've seen it trending that way. If you're starting to look at how much money comes in off electronic versus check versus cash every year, the electronic naturally is going up, and now you're stuck with 5 to 10% of your, and of course, depending on the area. Let me preface like what Curtis said. It very much depends on the area, socioeconomic. But some of these other general markets, I'm seeing it more trend electronically. Anyways, we still collect it. I think there's some states out there too, and I'm going off the top of my head here that require you to be able to take cash or check. So make sure you check your state law in regard to that.
Yeah, and whatever method you like, make that the least expensive. If you want all your customers to pay cash, give a 5% discount when they pay cash. If you want them all to pay auto pay, they get a 5% discount when they pay auto pay. But for those of you who are thinking, oh, I don't want to give discounts, it's actually the right. So, but that works.
Yeah,
Use
sure.
fees to drive behavior. It works.
Yeah, incentivize them.
Yeah, and I do agree with what Curtis and Dave say as well. Even though my preference is auto pay, it is situational, right? I mean, and you don't want to exclude a huge portion of your potential tenants because you only do auto pay. But listen, this country is becoming more and more cashless, so there's things to think about. I mean, the technology is just like taking over the world. I'm going to ask one more question from the audience, and then I have some wrap-up announcements. We're getting super close to the end of this. So this is from Taylor. How many people would you say are helping edit and modify your SOPs? She's the ops manual, so she's working with some trainers, but it seems like it's like her that's doing the bulk of it. And that can become a little problematic too, right? Because if you're the sole person looking at it, you're looking at it in nauseum, you're probably going to miss something. So how many people would you recommend take a review of this as you're building it?
I feel like
Anybody who has to use it.
Yeah.
I think the trainers have the biggest voice because they're the ones that, again, are having to tell other people how their procedure works so they can catch things that like, oh, no, we moved from that program. We're not doing that anymore. Or, this procedure that I normally train on doesn't work at this facility, and they pick up on things like that. But before I just roll out a new procedure, I always take it back to my directors and say, okay, this is the change that we're looking at making. You tell me, you're looking at your properties. Is this going to work if I roll this out for everybody? Or is there some kind of caveat that needs to be, mentioned for this location or that location, because they are closer to the facility level. So I think it really does need several eyes on it before you just throw out a blanket approach.
Yeah, and know that any change you make is related to other things too. So you may break something by fixing something. So you have to talk to enough people and figure out what the actual, real life result of a simple change is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Updating one procedure could mean that you actually update 5 procedures.
Yeah, we actually make sure that we start looking at that when you're updating your SOPs or operations. You think through how's this going to affect accounting, how this may affect marketing, how may this affect the training department, and solve for those. And you may have to get on a call with them so you can talk through. And they may think of another thing that may cause a domino effect. But the biggest part is leaning on your training people and asking for feedback. That's the most powerful thing that you can get from your people on the ground, the people that's training them, and then building out from there.
Curtis, you're saying cross department, just making sure everyone's in alignment with it. If it impacts or has something to do with, marketing is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And another thing that we try to do is during the training process, I try to meet with the new employee regularly throughout and ask them for their feedback, because sometimes they'll bring to the attention of like, oh, this whole section was so confusing and I didn't understand it. Because when you get used to seeing it and you're used to doing it, you think that your explanation is good until you give it to someone who's never done it before. And then sometimes you realize how poorly worded it was, or that there were just confusing pieces. So stay in contact with your new employees.
Yeah, awesome. And Sue put in here, there's Scott Zuckers, one of the known legal attorneys in the industry. She said that he had something in his newsletter related to the cash only. So his newsletter is, I think what it comes out like once a month. That's a great newsletter to follow. Scott's team is a great team to talk to and consult with an employee if you have any specific state or legal questions as it relates to your leases or things that you can and cannot do. Andy, I'm so sorry we didn't get to anything related to safety. We'll probably have to have an entire separate discussion about safety. Really tried to keep this mainly operations. So everyone that's here, my panelists, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to let you guys go. And if anyone can stick around for like 2 minutes, I have some really important updates from the industry to give to you. Matt, Dave, Curtis, Melissa, Tron, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We could not put on these type of sessions without self-storage industry experts like you guys.
Great to see you all.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks for being here. All right. If you could stick around with me for just a few seconds, I have a couple quick announcements of things that are going on in the industry and with the SBOA. So first and foremost, we will be back. Oh, Curtis, I still have you up here. We will be back on February 23rd for another Self-Storage Unlocked. This one is how to price your self-storage units at your facilities based on features, value pricing. We're going to talk about, if you're all the way at the back or if you're up towards the front gate or if you're on the 4th floor, if you're by the elevator, should the prices be different on those 10 by 10s that are sitting at different parts of the facility? The answer is yes, and we're going to tell you why. Next will be March 2nd, Storage for Rookies. If you are a newer owner and operator in the self-storage industry, this is a great session for you to come to that the SBOA hosts. Again, this one's a long one. This is a 5-hour day that you'll spend with us virtually. We talk about everything from feasibility studies to how to buy a property, how to build out a property, how to market one, the insurances that you'll need, how you're going to operate it, how to finance these bad boys. It's a great session. Our next one is on March the 2nd, Thursday, March the 2nd from 11 to 4. And it's trade show season in the self-storage industry. We are starting to kick off this upcoming week. I have the North Carolina Self-Storage Association seminar, February 6th and 7th. That's being held in Asheville, North Carolina. I will be there. I have a session talking about GPS. Go Push, Shine. That's the GPS model for how to write your marketing content. There's a lot of other great speakers there, great sessions, exhibitors. You can come learn from the different vendors in the space. So if you are in the state of North Carolina, I hope we get to see you on February 6th and 7th. If you need that information, you can go to selfstorage.org to find out. February 8th through 10th, the next couple days after that, my home state, Florida. I sit on the board for Florida. I love our Florida board. We do a lot of great things for the industry, just like everyone else out there. But February 8th through the 10th in Orlando, Florida is the FSSA trade show and convention. If you are in the state of Florida, please attend that. The week after, starting on Valentine's Day. What better way to spend your Valentine's Day than with the self-storage people you love? The AZA conference, that's the Arizona Self-Storage Association Conference and Trade Show, is being held in Phoenix, Arizona. Again, another good one to come to. And then the big boy, the monster of trade shows, the National SSA, is in New Orleans on March 8th through the 10th. A lot of the faces that you saw here today will be at these shows exhibiting with their companies, speaking sessions. I know Melissa has some, Dave has some, I know Tron has some coming up. Matt and Curtis probably do as well. So please come visit us at those shows. We will announce some stuff that's happening in Q2, but the next big one that will be in April in Q2 is the Inside Self-Storage Show. That is the large expo and trade show that is being held in Las Vegas. I don't have the dates off the top of my head, but it's sometime in mid-April. So if you're in the self-storage industry and you want to get networking and you want to get educated, you need to attend these shows if you are in the state. And again, we always recommend attending the national shows. So thank you, everyone, so much for being here. So sorry we ran 7 minutes over time today, but we had a really big panel and we had a really active audience. And Angie's asking, is there a website that has all the upcoming events you have? Selfstorage.org is a good one to go to. That's the National SSA's website. They monitor and manage 21 of the states, so you can get a lot of state level information there. And then if you are following the SBOA and you get our newsletter, we always put all of these upcoming events, the dates, the times, and the links to register in our newsletter. So if you are not part of our newsletter, you can go to www.thesboa.com. It'll have a join button. You fill out your name, email, phone number, and you will be able to get that newsletter that we send out every Tuesday that has all of these great industry events coming up listed in the newsletter. So again, sorry for running over time today. Thank you for everyone that is here. The replay will be available on the SBOA YouTube channel. If you have ideas for content and topics, people are chatting with us, stuff they want us to talk about, send that in to us. We're always looking for ideas of information that you guys want to hear and learn about. So have a great rest of your Thursday and have a good weekend. We'll see you back on February 23rd for Self Storage Unlocked. Take care.